Everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Luisa. Look what I have over my shoulder. It's my mini Christmas tree. I like to keep it in my studio because it helps me to get into the spirit and it helps me get inspiration to make gifts. And I know some of you probably have not finished your Christmas shopping yet. So I'm going to help you out by showing you how to make a gorgeous bracelet stack that you can give away as a gift. And I'm going to be making it using gemstones and some other smaller beads. So the beads themselves are going to be tiny, which is very trendy these days. And the best thing about this tutorial is that it's going to be super, super easy. Now, I did get a lot of requests for a tutorial for that gorgeous medallion bracelet from the November Bargain Bee Box. That's in the works. I'm working on it, okay? But I wanted to get this video out today because I know we're in a bit of a rush with Christmas right around the corner. So stay tuned for that medallion bracelet tutorial, which is coming up really, really soon. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into this tutorial. Let's go over the materials really quick. You're going to need some cutters. You're going to need some glue. I like to use this Hypo Cement glue, GS Hypo Cement glue. You're going to need some kind of a little clip to hold your beads or a bead stopper of some sort, and you're going to need some crimp covers. And this is going to be a stretch bracelet project, and I know what you're saying. You're probably saying, Luisa, I've seen dozens of stretch bracelet tutorials, but you know something, you learn something from each one. Even I learned something as long as I've been doing jewelry. I can go on the internet and still pick up tips. So hopefully if you're advanced, you're going to be able to pick up some tips. So I want to talk about the color real quick. We're going to be using a monochromatic color scheme today because unless you have preferences or an established color palette to guide you, you may have no idea where to start when choosing colors. So we're going to use a monochromatic palette, which is basically a single hue that has different tints, shades, and tones. So for instance, let's look at this color scheme right here. So this is kind of like an orange. This is the primary color, the orange, and then all of these other colors are just different tints and hues and values of that orange color. Okay, so that's what we're going to work with today because I feel that it's a little bit on the safe side. You know, when you're giving away gifts, you don't want to give anything that's too bright or too colorful because you really don't know what the recipient's going to like. But if you make the color scheme more on the subdued side and monochromatic side, then your chances of success are greater. I hope that makes sense. I do have 3 colorways that I'm going to show you. One of them is going to have actually 2 colors, but they're going to be very subdued colors. But anyway, hopefully you'll be able to get some tips by looking at the 3 different color choices. Let's go ahead and go over the stretch cord that we're going to be using. I want to show you all the different options, okay, because some of you probably have some in your stash, but I want to make sure that you're aware that they come in different thicknesses, okay, and it all depends on how heavy your beads are. So if your beads are really, really big and heavy, you're going to use a cord that is thicker, and each one of these is different. So this one here is 0.5 millimeters in thickness, okay, so this is probably the thinnest one I have. This one here is, let's go to this one. This one is 0.6 millimeters, no, 0.7, I'm sorry, 0.7 millimeters. This is Stretch Magic. Here's 0.6. Okay, I'm not familiar with this brand. I think I got this one for free somewhere. But this is 0.6, this is 0.7, and then we have one that's 0.8. And I think they even come thicker than that, okay? So you need to look at that because that's important. We're going to be using relatively small beads today, so we're not going to need anything that's really thick. But if you're working with larger beads, obviously you're going to want to use the thicker cord. And all of these are round stretch cord, okay? There is one, This one here, this one's Opalon. This one is actually not round. If you look at it, it's more flattened. It's made up of fibrous pieces or strands. Okay, so it's very, very stretchy, but we're not going to use this one today. We're going to use, I think I'm going to use 0.6, this one right here, because I don't want it to be too thin, but this one should be pretty sufficient for what we need today. All right, let's go over the beads. Okay, so here's a monochromatic color scheme. Let's take this one away for a second. But as you can see, I've got different shades of what looks like an amethyst color. Okay, and I know these are gemstones. I believe it is amethyst. This one might be agate because it's more opaque. Okay, and it's a little bit lighter in color. So here's what I like to do with my bracelet stacks. I like to have 4 different kinds of beads in my monochromatic scheme. So let me take this one out of the bag so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is a crystal. This is a bicone. Okay, it's a bicone crystal, and actually the color of that one is, let's see what this says. It says Colorado Topaz. So I picked it up because I felt that it went really well with this color. As you can see, it's not really topaz in my opinion. I don't know what I would call this, but I would not call this topaz. I really don't care about the name. I just want to make sure that it coordinates. So I have this beautiful bicone which adds the sparkle. Then I have this darker tone of amethyst in this amethyst stone, and then I have this agate which is a little bit lighter, and then I have something that adds a little bit more interest to the whole stack, and these are nuggets. Okay, and this is actually quartz. So here are my 4 different variations. Okay, so that's what I recommend when you're doing stacks, just to make the bracelet stack interesting so that it's not all boring. Okay, because when you're doing a monochromatic color scheme, you definitely want to add some subtle differences between the beads. Okay, and then I also like to add some kind of an accent bead. And for this one, I've chosen this metallic bronze color, and these are 8O seed beads. Okay, and there's another reason why I chose this as an accent bead. I chose this because I'm actually going to hide my knot inside a crimp cover that's the same color. So it'll basically be not noticeable. Okay, so that's the reason for using this, as well as that it adds a little bit of interest as well, and it breaks up the monotony. So this is the first colorway. Alright, so perhaps colorway is not the right term, but you definitely want to create some kind of contrast, and it doesn't have to be with color. It can be with shape, it can be with sparkle, level of sheen, and by using different variations of your base color, you can add interest and make the whole thing more appealing. So as you can see, I've got some gorgeous labradorite round beads here. These are smooth rounds, and I think these are 4mm in size. They're pretty small. And then I've got this lighter color of these beautiful crystal rondelles. They're very small. These are about 3mm, I think, 3x2, something like that. And then I have these larger labradorite rondelles, which I absolutely adore, because look at the flash inside of these beads, guys. Oh my gosh, look at that. These are so gorgeous. But I'm not going to use a lot of these because these are pretty large. And then to add interest, I chose this color for the sparkle. These are some bicones. And as you can see, the colors go really well together. And then my metal bead is going to be an antique silver size 8O seed bead. Okay, so this is the second color scheme, if you want to call it that. Let me go ahead and pull out the third one. All right, so here's my third color scheme, and as you can see, I have 2 different colors. I have orange tones and I have green tones, and actually this one has both orange and green. This is phantom quartz, and I absolutely adore this stone. It is so beautiful just because there is so much variation and each one has so much going on inside. Some of them look like they have little bits of moss inside of them. I just love phantom quartz. It's beautiful. So that's the one that has the interest. That's the nugget. And then I have these Prehnite coin beads. I think these are 6mm in dimension, or 6mm wide, I should say. And they're faceted, and they're definitely a greenish color. So it picks up the green from the phantom quartz. And then I've got this gorgeous strand of orange crystal rondelles, and then this orange jade strand. And these are faceted as well. So this is my color scheme, and to go with that, I've chosen this golden colored 80 seed bead. Okay, so that's my third color scheme. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so for stretch bracelets, you need to figure out how long you want each one to be. And usually, rule of thumb for stretch bracelets, I like to make them 1 inch longer than the person's wrist. Okay, now if they like to wear them tighter or snugger, then I would say maybe 3/4 of an inch larger than their actual size. So if you take a piece of string or something and you just wrap it around and then add 1 inch to that, that's what you want. That's the general rule for me. Everybody's different, okay? But the nice thing about stretch bracelets is that they do fit a wide range of sizes because they stretch, obviously, but you don't want them too snug, because then if the person has larger wrists, you're going to see a lot of the stretch cord in between when they put it on. But anyway, it would be a great idea if you could, glance, if you don't want to ask them what size wrist they have, just glance over and see if they have a small wrist or a medium sized wrist or a large wrist. Medium is usually between 6.5 and 7 inches. So mine is actually less than 6, a little bit less than 6. I have tiny wrists. So for me, I would probably have to go with something that's 7 inches. So measure out, first of all, you need to measure out the length that you need. And before I came up with my magic rods, which by the way, you can find these on my Etsy store, and I'm going to use these today. You don't have to use these, guys, okay? I don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do it because I don't have those rods. You really don't. I use them because it makes the job a lot easier. But if you want to find out about them, I'll leave a link down below so you can go check it out. If you don't have magic rods, which by the way, just to give you a quick overview on these rods, they are very, very thin. So they fit all kinds of hole sizes, and they're very firm. So they actually hold very heavy beads. They do bend, but they retain their shape. That's what makes them so nice. But before I came up with that, what I used to do is just to get a bit of beading wire, just any kind of beading wire, snip off a 10-inch piece, and then I would arrange my beads on that, because putting them on a board isn't good enough in my opinion. You're not going to get the exact length, because beads by their nature, especially if they're not round, they're going to flip over and lay on their sides, and you're not going to get an accurate measurement. So you can use a piece of beading wire if you don't have magic rods, or even a piece of wire, so that you can put the beads on there and have them up against each other really snug. But like I said, today I'm going to be using these because I love these. They're just a wonderful tool, and I use these mostly for memory wire bracelets. I have a video about that if you haven't seen it. I'll link that down below as well. But I'm going to go ahead and arrange my beads on these, and let's go ahead and pull out the first color scheme, which is the Labradorite. Okay, so I'm just going to snip them, but I'm going to keep them on the strands because it just makes it so much easier to thread onto the rods or the beading wire. So if you can do that, if you can keep them on the strands, I would recommend that. But if you're used to taking them off the strand, by all means, do your thing. This is just how I like to do it. And I'm going to put a little pile of seed beads right here. All right, so my stacks are going to have 4 bracelets each. So I usually start by loading one of them, okay? And I'm going to choose this round Labradorite bead. And the nice thing about the rods is that you can load the beads on, take them off the strand, load them directly onto your rod, and arrange them on the rod. And you can load and unload from either end, which makes it really nice. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add one more, okay, and then I'm going to break it up by adding a seed bead, just like that, okay, and let me put on another 5 and another seed bead, okay. And when you're working with rods, you definitely want to get into the habit of putting the little stopper at the end so you don't lose your beads. And let's add another seed bead on this end so we can take a look at what we have so far. Okay, that's looking okay. Now I want to add a kind of a focal. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch to these larger ones, okay, and I'm going to put maybe 3 of them, and I'm doing this on the fly, guys, okay, so you're going to see me, you may see me change things as I go along. So let's just see how 3 look with a seed bead in between each one. Okay, and now I'm going to continue by adding another series of the smaller rounds. So again, I'm going to add 5, just like that, another seed bead, and then another 5 of the round 4mm labradorites. And now we're going to see if we have the correct measurement, the correct length. Go ahead and get the ruler and see what we have. All right, so I need to add another round of, or another set of the 5. So again, a seed bead, and then 5. Well, I thought I would fast forward so that I wouldn't bore you watching me load and unload beads. So this is what I came up with, and this equals the exact length that I want, which is approximately 7 inches, maybe a little bit less. But this is what I want, and as you can see, I ended with a seed bead on this end, and that's because that's where the knot's going to be. So I'm going to actually, that's a placeholder. I'm going to remove the seed bead and put a knot and a crimp bead in its place. But I have sets of 5 round ones, so there's 5 round beads, a seed bead, 5 round beads, a seed bead, and so on. And then I have a set of rondelles here as a focal, and then I've got another 2 sets of 5 there. And it doesn't matter that it's not even or symmetrical, because once you form a circle and you knot it, it really doesn't matter as long as your pattern or your sequence of beads is the pattern that you want. Okay. All right, so let me go ahead and do the next bracelet. And I'm going to use these tiny ones, I think. These are really cute. And for this one, I'm simply going to thread on a series of maybe 6. I'm going to play around with these a little bit until I come up with a design, and I'll be right back. So here's what I have so far. So I wanted to point something out, guys. This is very important. These rondelles are really tiny, and the holes are really, really tiny. Okay, so that's important. So if you're using stretch cord that is thick, you may not be able to fit the cord through the holes. And the other reason I like to keep the beads on the strand is so that I can grab multiples at the same time. So for instance, here I'm grabbing 6, okay, and I'm pulling them off the strand. And then I can thread them directly onto the rod all at once, just like that. It makes it so much quicker and so much easier. Okay, so let's have a look now. I don't have to use the ruler. I can just hold it up to what I have so far to see what I need to add. And it looks like I'm going to need to add some kind of a focal or something to make up the difference. And I'm going to start by adding a bicone on this end. I want to show you this process because this is kind of important, okay? You're going to run into this issue yourself, and so I want you to be able to address it. Okay, so if you can see the pattern, I've got bicone, seed bead, and so on. and I'm ending over here with a bicone. All right, so the next sequence would be one with a seed bead. Okay, now that's going to be a problem because I don't have very much room to add 6 rondelles and a seed bead, as you can see. Okay, so now I'm going to have to play around a little bit to see how I can make it work. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the seed beads or the rondelles from this end. Let me put a stopper on this end so I can show you real quick what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove the 3 of the rondelles from this end. Okay, put my stopper on, and I'm going to add them to this end. Okay, something like this. All right, now let's have a look to see how much difference we need to make up. Not a whole lot. As you can see, I'm almost at that desired length, but I need to fill it in with something. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill it in with 3 of these seed beads. Okay, and the middle seed bead is actually just going to be like a placeholder because that's where I'm going to put the crimp cover. And you're probably saying, what are you talking about? Well, I'll explain. When I go to thread them on, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is kind of like a center point or a focal. Not a focal, but that's this is where I'm going to hide the knot. It's hard to explain until you see it. So let me go ahead and load my 3rd bracelet. Alright, so my 3rd one is going to have these gorgeous rondelles primarily, so let me go ahead and load them up and I'll be right back. Here's my 3rd bracelet, and I adore these rondelles, guys. Look at the flash. Oh my gosh. I'm almost tempted to keep this one for myself, but I need to be strong and not do that. But look at these rondelles. They are so beautiful. So I decided to do 3 rondelles, a seed bead, 3 round 4mm round beads, a seed bead, and rondelles, rounds, rondelles, rounds. And they're all labradorites. But these rondelles are just to die for. They're so gorgeous. So anyway, these are my 3. And as you can see, I made up the difference by adding some seed beads at the end. And there are a total of 5. So one of them, probably the middle one, is going to have the knot or the crimp cover. So I'm going to, in other words, I'm going to take out seed bead number 3 and put a knot and a crimp cover in its place. I hope that makes sense. All right, so I just need 1 more bracelet for my stack to be complete. So let me go ahead and do that and I'll be right back. So these are 4mm bicones, and I do this for sparkle, okay, because you do want one of them to be sparkly. Just for variation. Like I said before, you want to create a little bit of contrast or a little bit of interest between the bracelets. So here I have the bicones, a little tiny rondelle. It's opaque and pale in color, so it adds contrast. And then bicones again, and then a seed bead, bicones, rondelle, bicones, seed beads, bicones, rondelle, and so on and so forth. All right, so here are my 4 bracelets, and I think that they look so pretty. I love this combination, and tell me that's not gorgeous. And there's plenty of variation, so it's not monotonous, it's not boring. And once we put these on stretch cord and tie them off, they're going to look gorgeous. So that's what's so nice about the rods. You can actually keep them in place by using these stoppers. They come with the stoppers, and it just holds the beads in place. Bead caps as well, which is something that you can't do on a bead board. I have my 0.6 cord here, and I'm going to measure out 4 sections of cord, and each one's going to be about 10 to 11 inches long. Okay, you want enough room to make that knot. You don't want to have to be struggling with a piece that's too short. So give yourself enough room or enough length, especially if you're a beginner. Okay. Alright, so I have my 4 pieces, and this part's very important, guys, okay? Before you load anything, give your cord a stretch, okay? And the reason you're doing this is so that once you load the beads and knot them off, there's no chance of the bracelet stretching out of shape, okay, which is what happens sometimes when you wear it. So give it a stretch, not too much because it does break if you stretch too much, okay? You don't want to overstretch it. And then once you have all of your cord stretched out, then you can start loading your beads, okay? And if you have the magic rods, you'll see how easy it is. And like I said, you want to have seed beads at the end of each rod or each segment, because that's where you're going to hide the knot. So one of these seed beads is actually a placeholder for the knot, and it's not going to be there. It's going to be replaced by a crimp cover. Okay, I'm going to show you a very easy way to thread these beads onto your stretch cord, because if you're using thin stretch cord like I am, 0.6 or 0.5, it's going to be very tedious for you to thread this and through all the beads, especially the really tiny rondelles that I showed you earlier with the small holes. Those are going to be virtually impossible, okay? I mean, you could do it, but it would probably take you forever. So let me show you this trick that I use, and I've done this in previous videos. I'm taking a piece of file, this is 6-pound file line, and I cut myself a piece that's about 16 inches long. Okay, and I'll show you why. What you're going to do, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to thread it onto a needle. All right, now the needle is relatively small. I think it's a size 11 needle. And I like to flatten the end just because it makes it easier to thread through the eye of the needle. It just makes it so much easier to thread through. Once you do, you're going to bring your ends together and you're going to form a knot. Now you don't want it to be too big because you want it to be able to fit through the whole of those tiny rondelles. Okay, but you want it to be secure. So just do a knot the best way you can. Try to make it secure but not bulky, okay? So I start with a square knot and then just a regular overhand knot on top of that. That should be sufficient. Pull it, make sure it's tight, and make sure that it's a very tiny knot. Once you do that, you can snip off your ends. You really don't need those ends. They just kind of get in the way a little bit. Snip them off. So now you have a needle with a loop of file line. Okay, now here's what you do. This is really easy, guys, okay? You take your beads. I'm going to start at this end. And because I've got them on the rods, I can offload them in multiples and thread them onto my needle, just like that. Very quick and easy. And as you can see, I have a little rondelle in the mix as well, so that goes onto the needle very easily. I'm going to continue threading them onto the file line, making sure that I pay attention to the end. I don't want them sliding off this end, okay? And you might even want to secure the end by putting a bead stopper or something on the end, okay, so you don't lose your beads. And you're just going to continue threading them on just like this. Okay, so once you have the beads threaded onto your file line loop, then what you do is you take your stretch cord, you attach the clip at one end, you take your other end, and you insert it into the file line loop, just like this. Okay, now you don't want to tie that end off because that'll just make another knot, and it'll be really hard for you to slide the beads on. And then basically you just slide them down from the file line onto your stretch cord. Let me show you again. Okay, so here's my stretch cord, and it's inserted into the loop of the file line. Can you see that? Just make sure you don't lose that tail, okay? And then just slide them from the file line right onto the stretch cord. Now this tiny one is really difficult because it has a very small hole. So this one you're going to have to help it along a little bit. Okay. But the rest of these beads have regular holes, and so they slide very easily and very quickly onto the stretch cord. Now if you have stretch cord that's stiff, like if you're working with stretch cord that's thicker than 6 millimeters, or 0.6 millimeters I should say, excuse me, then you don't need to worry about this. You can just thread it directly onto your cord because your cord is able to hold its shape. But if you're working with flimsy cord or thin cord like I am, that's not possible. You could use a big eye needle. That's another option, okay, instead of the fireline loop. But the fireline loop does pretty much the same thing as a big eye needle does. And I think it's a little bit easier, especially with these little tiny beads. I can tell you that a big eye needle and cord will not fit through this tiny rondelle. Okay, the hole is like really small, so a big eye needle would not work with that. So that's when you just have to come up with different ideas. And I came up with this one a while ago. I saw people trying to thread beads onto pieces of wire and different things like that, and I just thought, you know what, it's so much easier to use fireline, because fireline is nice and thin and you don't have to worry about it not fitting through the hole of the bead, along with the needle and everything else that people try to use. So here we go, there it is, it's all threaded on, as simple as that. Okay, so that's how I recommend that you do it. Okay, like I said, unless you have stretch cord that's thick, then you don't have to worry about it. But the thin stretch cord, this is a really, really good tip. Okay, I'm going to keep threading my other bracelets, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I've threaded all of my bracelets. As you can see, this one was really challenging because of those tiny rondelles, but the needle and thread really helped, or the needle and fireline, I should say, really helped. Okay, so now we need a crimp cover, and I'm going to choose one of these antique silver ones. Okay, these are 3 millimeter in size. They're pretty small. Okay, and this is the seed bead that's a placeholder, so I'm going to remove that seed bead because I don't want it there. I want to replace that with the crimp cover. Okay, the seed bead is there just as a placeholder so that I can get the right measurement for the bracelet. All right, so now basically this is really easy, guys. Okay, you're going to do a square knot, and this is how I do mine. All right, so everybody's different. I take my left side, I put it over my right side, and then I take this tail and I go up and over and under like this. Okay, and I do the same thing. I take it over the left one over the right one, and then I take the left tail through the loop, just like this. Okay, and this allows you to close it up, tighten it up, and bring those beads together. All right, so you want to pull it, make sure that knot is nice and snug. Once you have that, then you're going to do a surgeon's knot. Okay, so for the surgeon's knot, you're going to go you're going to take the left one over the right one again. You're going to go through the loop, but you're going to go through the loop 2 times. So that's 1 time, and that's 2 times. So this is what you should have, okay? And then pull. Once you have that, I'm going to do another one on top of that. It's just a regular overhand knot. Okay, make sure it's nice and tight. Now at this point you can add glue before you snip off the ends, but I'm not going to do that because I'm going to add glue and a crimp cover without the ends. Okay, so there's my knot. Okay, now I'm going to take my crimp cover and I'm going to place the crimp cover onto that knot from underneath. It's easier if you go from underneath. So the knot is right inside that crimp cover. Okay, and now take your glue, GS Hypo Cement, or whichever one you want to use. I like this one because it has the thin applicator, and mine is always goopy for some reason. I'm really bad about cleaning it. And you're going to put a dab of glue right onto your knot, right inside that bead cover, okay? Put some glue on there so that it seeps underneath the knot and around the knot. You don't need a lot, okay? And then, as you can see, I'm holding the bracelet slightly stretched so that I can get to that bead cover. With some crimping pliers, you're going to gently close up your crimp bead or your crimp cover. And you want to make sure you do it gently, okay, so you don't dent your crimp cover. And you want to make sure that you close it up so that it's round shaped, not egg shaped, okay? So I usually crimp it from the top as well, just like this, gently. I try to do it from different angles so that I can get a nice round shape. Okay, and that's basically it, guys. Okay, so your bracelet is done. Now, I would not put this on until that glue is completely dry in there. So I would wait perhaps an hour or so, okay? Because it's inside the cover, it's going to take a little bit longer. So you want that glue to be nice and dry and cured, okay? You don't want to give this to somebody and then have the glue seeping out and getting all over the skin or whatever. So the knot, it makes it very, very secure, okay? But the crimp cover and the glue gives it a little bit extra security, so you know that's not going to come apart. Now, having said that, stretch bracelets eventually do break because the stretch cord deteriorates, okay, no matter how much you take care of it. But when you give it away, just make sure you tell the recipient that they need to keep it clean and dry and not get any lotion or water on it, okay, if they want to extend the life of the bracelet. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tie off the other ones and I'll be right back. I did want to show you this real quick. So this is the one that had the 5 seed beads. So what I've done is I've put 2 on each end and I've removed the third one, or the fifth one, I should say, the middle one, because that's going to be the one that has the crimp. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. This one has 3 at this end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these and put it over here and then remove the other one so that I can replace it with a crimp cover. I hope that makes sense. All right, I'll be right back. Aren't these gorgeous? Look how pretty these are. Oh my gosh, these are so beautiful. I love them. They look so pretty. And they look so elegant and so trendy, guys. Oh my gosh. I would love to receive a bracelet stack like this. Okay, so let me show you. So here are the 5, and the center one is the one that has the crimp cover, okay? This one has the crimp cover, let's see if I can find it, right here in between these 2 seed beads, okay? This one has the crimp cover, I think it's this one here, okay? But it's really hard to tell. And then this one, the crimp cover is, I believe it's this one here. Nope, this one. It's this one right here. It's hard to tell. So that's my first stack, my labradorite bracelet stack. It's so beautiful, guys. And these, like I said, because they're stretch bracelets, they can fit a wide range of sizes, wrist sizes. So it's a very safe gift to give to somebody. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do my other bracelet stacks and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and I have my beautiful orange and green bracelet stack and I love this one. This is the one that has the Prey Knight and the orange, I think it's Malaysia Jade. But look at this, guys. Look how pretty this is. So this is the focal part of the bracelet, okay? Just like I did with the labradorite, I had a section of the bigger rondelles right there, and the rest of them are the round ones. Well, this is a similar thing, but I wanted to do it like this because this is where I'm going to hide the cord. Okay, I'm going to hide it in one of these, probably this last one here. So all of these have a seed bead at the end, as you can see, okay, because that's where I'm going to put the knot. But yeah, this one turned out really pretty, and you just have to play around with it until you get just the right amount of beads. I had to unload and reload this a couple of times until I got the exact length that I wanted. Okay, so it doesn't happen automatic. You have to kind of play with it. But that's the first one. So these are 6 prehnite coin beads, 1 orange jade with seed beads on either side, and I repeat the pattern again a couple of times, and then I finish with the orange jade right here in the middle of the bracelet. So I do that because that way I can control the length a little bit better if I have the ability to add 1 bead at a time. So I didn't have to add 6, I could have added 5, or I could have added more. It just depends on the length. So that's one way to do it, okay? And then this one is just the crystal rondelles, and there are 6 separated by a seed bead, and this one happened to work out just fine. But had it not worked out, I would have played around with the seed beads, and just like I did with the labradorite bead where I added 3 seed beads, I think it was this one, I added the 3 seed beads to make up for the difference. I could have done that here, but I didn't have to because it worked out just fine. So my knot is going to be hidden inside this bead here. So this is the placeholder, like I keep saying. So it's going to go away, and I'm going to put a crimp cover right there. And this one is the phantom quartz, and boy, these are gorgeous, guys. Look at this. Look how pretty these are. They're so beautiful. So when you're working with nuggets, one thing you need to watch out for is you want them to be pretty much the same length, okay? You don't want to have nuggets that are too short because then you'll notice the spacing. You'll notice a difference in the spacing, okay? I mean, some of these are a little bit smaller than others, but it's not too noticeable, so I wasn't too concerned about it. But you do need to watch out for that because I've had strands of nuggets where some are really big and some are really small. So you want them to be somewhat uniform in size. But yeah, this is basically all just nuggets and crystals, all the way down, and then one little bead at the end where I'm going to be hiding the knot. So that's going to be a crimp cover. So yeah, this one turned out really nice. And then the 4th one here is the Malaysia jade beads in sets of 3, as you can see, with a seed bead in between, and then a segment in the middle of phantom quartz. So again, I didn't have to add any extra seed beads, but I did have to play around. Initially, I think I started with 4 of these or 5 of these, and then I played around until I got just the right number so that I could get the desired length. So that's another way to play around. Just experiment and see what works out until you get the desired length, okay? So pretty happy with this one. I love how this one looks. So I'm going to go ahead and string them and tie them off, and I'll come back. Don't you just love this? These are so beautiful. I love how this stack turned out. I love the colors. The phantom quartz, the Malaysia jade, and the prehnite. This one right here. So beautiful. And I used the gold seed beads and the gold crimp covers, so you really can't tell from a distance which is which. But on this one, that's the crimp cover right there. Okay, it's really hard to tell. And on this one, the crimp cover is actually this one right here. And then on this one, that's the crimp cover right there. Okay. And then this one's easy to tell because I only had the one gold bead or gold crimp cover. So it's right there, which is fine. It's just another design element. But yeah, I'm really happy with this stack. I think it's gorgeous. I love the colors. They're so beautiful. I don't know which one I like better. I don't know if I like this one or the labradorite stack. They're both very beautiful. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do my third stack and I'll be right back. So here's my third one with the amethyst and that beautiful colored quartz. And they turned out really nice. And again, these rods are just so good for this kind of thing because, you know, another reason I like to use them is that if you try to use beading wire to arrange your beads like this, you can end up snipping a lot of pieces, and then I guess you could save them for bracelets. But the reason the rods are so good is that they're nice and firm, so they hold the beads really well, and you can slide the beads off, slide them on, have them all lined up like this so that they all measure the same exact lengths. The silicone stoppers keep them in place. It's really difficult to use these kinds of stoppers on beading wire or any other kind of wire, but I guess you could use bead stoppers, but then you'd have to have a whole bunch of them. And this way you can look at the patterns a lot better and line everything up and make sure that they're all the same length. So that's why I like to use the rods. But anyway, here's the first bracelet. As you can see, it's mostly crystal rondelles, and then I do have a series of these I'm sorry, bicones. These are bicones, and then I have a series of rondelles right here in that opaque amethyst color with seed beads. So I have 6 bicones, 1 rondelle with seed beads, 6 bicones, 1 rondelle with seed beads, and then a series here. And again, I use this method so that I can make up the difference, so that I can have the exact length bracelet. So I didn't have to use 5, I could have used 6 or 7 or however many I needed for, to achieve that length. So the knot is going to be hidden probably inside this last one, or in this spot here. This is a placeholder. Now this one has the gorgeous quartz nuggets in the middle here. These are the amethyst faceted rounds. And then I did add a series of seed beads right here to make up for the difference. And there are 5, so I'm going to probably put the knot in the middle one, in place of the middle one. And the rest of the sequence is 6 amethyst, 1 seed bead, 6 amethyst, 1 seed bead, then 2 amethyst and a seed bead, and then the nuggets. Same thing on this side. So this is just my way of playing with the beads until I get the exact distance that I need. And this one has, I think these are agates. So I have 5 agates, 5 bicones, 5 agates, 5 bicones with seed beads to separate each one. And this worked out to be the exact length that I wanted. And here are the nuggets again, and it's just nugget, seed bead, and so on and so forth. These are so beautiful. Look at this. If it weren't for the color, I would call this phantom quartz. But I don't think it is. Anyway, guys, these are the 4 bracelets. I'm going to go ahead and string them, and I'll be right back. Here's the third stack. And I absolutely love that metallic bronze with the purple. It looks so beautiful. So these turned out really nice, and I used a crimp cover that was bronze colored, so it's not exactly the same as the seed beads, but it's a good match. It's a fair enough match. And if you didn't know where it was, you really wouldn't notice it, but it's right there in the middle of the 5. So there are 2 seed beads on either side of it. Okay, so this is the first bracelet. And then here's the other one. And let me see where the crimp cover is. It's right there. So these you can tell a little bit because it's a little bit slightly different sheen level. But from a distance and when you wear it stacked with the others, you really don't notice it. So that one turned out really nice. And here's the third one. And there's the crimp cover right there. Very pretty. And here's the 4th one. I love this one with all nuggets. It's so pretty. So these look really nice as well. And I love this color. It's very subdued, monochromatic, different levels of purple with the bronze as an accent color. So I'm very happy with this one. So here's another useful tip. I like to keep my beads on the strand. I know a lot of people don't care. They just put them all in a bag when they're done. But if you're one of those people, you can very easily put these back onto one of these strands. And gemstones usually come in these strands, very thin, and they're usually double strands. So it's really hard to thread them back on, but it's not if you use this method. Okay, so again, you want to grab your loop with the needle on it. Put a clip at one end so you don't lose the beads. Thread the excess beads or the leftover beads onto your needle or onto the file line, just like this. Okay, and now take the clip off, insert the double thread through the loop. So you want to open it up and thread it through, just like this. I don't know if you can see that on camera. And fold it. Make sure you got a hold of the tails, and then just let the bead slide down onto your thread, just like that, as easy as that. And now I have the beads on the strand again. Tie off a knot so you don't lose them, and they're ready for storage. So anyway, here are the 3 stacks. Which one is your favorite? Which one do you like the best? I'm having a difficult time deciding which one. But these are so gorgeous. I think I'm liking this one the best, with the phantom quartz and the orange Malaysia jade. So anyway, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me go ahead and select one of these, and I'll put it on and come back to say goodbye. Well, I chose the labradorite. I absolutely love labradorite. The other nice thing about these bracelets is that if the recipient doesn't want to wear all 4, she doesn't have to. She can wear 1, 2, or 3. It all depends on the occasion. Sometimes wearing 1 is a little bit more elegant, more subdued, but you have choices, and that's what's so nice about this type of gift. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope I've given you some ideas. I know it's difficult because we don't have a lot of days left, but these don't take very long to make. Still have a little bit of time left, so get your beads out, make some bracelets, have some fun, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.